episode of our podcast. We have some wonderful guests. We have Selyna Warren and Marissa Read. They are the creators, the writers, producers, showrunners of YouTube Red's longest running original TV show, Foursome. They also have a new TV series coming for Nickelodeon. So we're just going to talk about their journey, how they got where they did, and what's coming next. So I'm Elyse Buckley.
Sean Sharma.
And I'm Selyna.
And I'm Marissa.
And you won't be able to tell the difference between the two of us. Try to listen.
Your voices sound a lot like
the exact
and we
same.
say things at the same time constantly.
I love it. It'll just be an echo.
Well, what I appreciate about this is that I am meeting you guys for the first time tonight. And so this is Lauren's invitation that you guys are here, which is so exciting. We've been kind of combining our networks to make these things happen and meeting and featuring really awesome people.
Yes. And anytime I get to see them, I just had them come as guest speakers for this cool women's in entertainment summit. And I'm just like, they are the two most inspiring humans that I know. So anytime I get to be like, Selyna and Marissa, will you come talk?
That is so
It's
nice.
such a treat.
Because we find each other kind of depressing and very ho-hum about the whole industry. So it's nice when people are like, you made us feel great. We're like, really? We feel terrible.
We feel like we overwhelm people normally.
God.
When we talk to them, they're like, you just said so many things.
We're
So many magical things, though.
Mentors, and the kids that we mentor are terrified by the time they leave meetings with us.
Yeah, they're like, I need a full week to process everything you just said.
Well, let's dive in. So I would love to, because Lauren knows your story, but I would love to hear more about because you guys went to
AMDA is where you guys met and got
American
started.
Musical Dramatic Academy here in Los Angeles, California. It's a terrible school. Nobody go.
Some proud alumni. I love it.
They're trash.
Yeah, they don't really involve their alumni at all, so.
Specifically us. We don't know about other people, but we've reached out to, get involved, mentor. We're mentors at USC, UCLA. We've spoken at Northridge, and our own alma mater does not care.
We're not
That's
good enough
so
for them.
wild.
Well, I absolutely love that you said that they're trash, and I want to know all about it because, for me, when I'm from Minneapolis originally, and in Minneapolis, there are all these modeling and acting scam schools like John Casablanca's, John Robert Powers, Barbizon, blah, blah, blah. There's one called Karen International in Minnesota, but it's all about trying to get people when they're at the mall with their kids and play on their dreams. Oh, we can make your kid a star. Just give us $5,000. Just give us blah, blah, blah. And so we've kind of had a running sad joke that the more official something sounds in LA, probably the worse education you're going to get there.
If you're into musical theater, if what you really want to do is musicals and Broadway, it's not a bad school, especially if you're not smart enough to get into the schools that'll really help you network. USC, part of the jam is the networking it sets up for you. Same with Northwestern and Tisch. It'll set you up. You can get meetings forever within the network because they really help each other. AMDA doesn't have the network, but if you don't have the grades,
yeah, they'll pretty much let anyone in.
They'll let anybody in, and they have more people on Broadway than any other school. At least that was 7 years ago. I read that in an article.
Wow.
And the education for musical theater, I would say, is good.
It's a little dated. They made us wear a full face of makeup and a leotard to class every day.
But it instills the right values in you. I would just say for strictly acting on camera and for comedy, and they really should start involving writing and doing your own stuff. They're not at all a school we would recommend. We would recommend just coming out here and not going to school and taking the classes at different studios that you're making kind of your own college.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's where we met.
Yeah,
Good.
Selyna,
And so you wouldn't put it in the scam category. Just you have to know what you're getting into if you're going to go there.
It's expensive for what it is, and I really don't like schools that don't let you audition. It's the whole point of moving out here when you're 18 years old is to hit the ground running. You learn by doing, and they don't let you audition. I mean, now knowing what we know, we would have done things differently.
yeah, but it's their rule that you can't audition while you're still in school.
Which
Yeah,
I
and
think
that
is a
just
huge
seems like a
mistake.
contrived thing to keep people in there paying their tuition. And, I guess you could make the case, well, until you've graduated from our program, you're not qualified to go out and do that. But that's such an arbitrary thing because people learn at different rates. So I'm sure people come in and they're ready to work. And
Not
others,
to mention you learn by doing. You're not going to know what it feels like until you go try and bomb, and you know what I mean? And you might burn a bridge or you might, embarrass yourself, but that's part of, you do that no matter what, even after you graduate.
Yeah, that's the growing process.
Yeah.
Man. But so you said you do mentor for USC, UCLA. What's that like? What's the mentorship program like, and what have you been able to do with it?
So at USC, we have a group of four. Mm-hmm. Four.
Feels like that.
Right.
4 mentees, and this is our first year doing the official program. We have another mentee, that Bennett, who was a director on Foursome. He did this program. It's called the Marshall
School of Business.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which is just so funny because, like, there's no way I would have ever gotten into this program in 1 million years. And I'm like, here's what you should learn.
Yeah, we went to this event that was like the Towns and Gowns event or something, and you were supposed to wear like business casual, and I literally showed up in a skirt and a crop top, and all the students were in like full business suits. I was like, how am I here? Like,
Oh my God, I love that.
But it's like you just meet with them, you set goals, you talk. They're also like getting an education, so it's kind of overwhelming when we're like, have your reel edited and do all these things that you do once you get out of school. But we're like, you'll be way ahead of the game. But anyway, that's kind of how we met. We became friends. I was Marissa's RA, and then we both got in trouble at the same party for drinking. It was a very dry campus.
Selyna was obviously supposed to be breaking up the party, and she was
living
Classic.
and then we moved in together. And basically right after school, acting was the #1 focus. I went heavy onto the Groundlings route. Marissa went heavy into the independent film route. And then both of us were like, we're not auditioning for anything that's exciting. And, we have to start making, and also the interim of just waiting for auditions felt insane. Like, you can't do that for your whole life.
Right.
It's just like sit and wait.
Totally. And the character descriptions for the parts we were auditioning for were brutal. Like, I went out for a role the description was Cameron Diaz plus 200 pounds.
Jeez.
And it was like, that's what it takes to write a character? Like, we can do that.
I went out for Mall Cop 2. Horse Lady.
Oh my God.
And it was me and Melanie Hutzel in the waiting room who did Delta, can I help you? Or Kappa, whatever it was. And I just, like, we were looking at each other and both of us were so sad. And I was like, you were on Saturday Night Live. What are we doing here? And then we started writing and then sold Foursome relatively quickly when we started writing together.
Yeah, so we had met with Awesomeness TV just as a general, and at the time they were doing really young content, kind of like for preteens, and a lot of branded like sketches. And so we didn't really have anything for them at the time. Everything we write is pretty R-rated and very raunchy. And they called us back in 2 months later because Brian Robbins, who is the president of the company, was trying to kind of grow his audience, and he wanted to do a high school version of Sex and the City. So Shauna, his exec, interviewed us amongst like 12 other writers, and ultimately they took Foursome as the take that they went with.
How long after graduation was this?
Maybe 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd gone about just focusing on auditions for 2 years.
For a year or so, we were just acting. And we were taking so many classes and like kind of building a network. And then then the next year was like writing and kind of branching out into that world. I had sent out, Marissa was still in school, and I had sent out a ton of, and this was back in the days of mailings, like manila envelope headshots. And I just realized that people put their email addresses on IMDb Pro. So I reached out via IMDb Pro to somebody who turned out to be a literary manager, and I didn't know what that meant. He said, "Oh, what have you written?" And in the meeting, I realized that he was a writing manager. And I was like, "Oh, I have this great movie." And then I like went away, wrote a movie very fast. It was garbage, but good enough to have him sign me. Marissa read for one of the roles in the movie opposite me as my best friend, and he was like, "You two together is an easier sell. Like, you've got fun energy."
Yeah, we like went out for a drink afterward, and he was like, "You guys are the way that you speak to each other is really weird. You guys should write together and put it as your dialogue." So that's really the reason we started writing together.
So that was about like a year and a half in. We wrote like, he said, you know, we wrote a show called Breast Friends about us maybe being like in love with each other. But then that MTV show came out. I was funny because our manager was like, this will never sell. And then what was called Faking It came out, which is the exact premise.
Oh my God.
And then we wrote something called RAs about our time being RAs that went with Andy Fickman. And then another show came out, Resident Assistants on Hulu. That was the exact same thing. And we were just like, sheesh, we got to write faster. And then Foursome happened. So that was kind of the journey of getting involved.
Yeah, and then Foursome, Awesomeness TV produced the entire first season. Selyna and I wrote the whole thing, no writing room or anything. And then it got distributed to YouTube Red at the time. It's now YouTube Premium. And it went on for 4 seasons. So took up the majority of our 20s.
Amazing. And then for writing it, you had 12 episodes that you had to write for the first season. And
Six
episodes. And then they cut those up into mini ones, right?
It was 6 30-minute episodes or 22-minute episodes, but they didn't know if it was going to be like what platform it was going to be on. So we had to write it so that it could be split into 2 11-minute episodes. So it was really hard because it had to be 2 standalone episodes, but also work as one. So I had to share like a theme.
What was the reason for that?
Just because they didn't know where it was going. So worst case scenario, I think they were going to put it on their own YouTube channel and it could only be 11 minutes instead of 22.
It was bizarre. And when second season came around and we knew it was going to YouTube Original, we could just do a normal 3-act series. And our producer was like, wow, you guys have gotten so much better at writing.
Your structure is so much better.
And we're like, no, we didn't get better. We're just not trying to write this insane 11-11 sandwich method.
So crazy. But it really, I think that's one of the most impressive things is that you just taught yourselves how to become screenwriters. And you were telling me about like how you would go and you would study scripts and you taught yourself kind of the format and just how quickly you were like, okay, these are the new rules. Okay, we'll adapt to that. Can you tell us a little about how you would go about like learning the structure and like just kind of teaching yourselves how TV was written?
Before we started writing together, we would go to hold for technical difficulties.
We constructed this right before you guys came.
You really need Velcro?
Yeah. You're like, oh, we didn't get Velcro. Tape will do for today.
Before we started writing, I submitted to a couple of like the Warner Brothers initiatives, which is like for diversity. So being a female writer is diverse.
And they're like writing fellowship programs.
So in order to do that, this is before we even had the read through where we were paired up together. Before you do that, you have to write a spec. So you have to write an episode of a television show that already exists. So I chose like Fairly Odd Parents for I don't know what reason. And
it's a classic.
I guess I don't know why I didn't pick something like. I think I also at one point at the same time I did it's all right. At the same time I did It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So basically I went to the WGA and I checked out an episode of It's Always Sunny, and then I did it like a math problem, how many jokes per page, how many scenes per act, and I wrote it all down. This is how many, this is where it's indented, this is how they use their slug lines, and I just copied it exactly and then submitted it. And once it was time to write our own stuff, we asked ourselves, what do we want this show to emulate? If it's like Girls, we then did the same thing with a Girls script and then just kind of plugged in our own version of it.
That's amazing.
It was like a template, basically.
The WGA library is open to everybody, including non-WGA members.
It's amazing. That's where we host our table reads at least once a month.
Oh, that's so smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been doing table reads for over 2 years now. Just over 2 years. And there's an internal submission process through the diversity committee of the WGA where people can submit the first 10 pages of their script blind so they can't put their names on it. That way people can't play favorites with who they select. And then we've got a little panel within the Writers Guild that does all that stuff. All right.
I say just leave
let
it.
that go. So anyway, but the Writers Guild Foundation Library has been kind enough to just donate the space once a month for us to bring in a WGA writer, and then SAG-AFTRA and CSA casting directors, we cast actors for it, and then our team goes to work and they bring it to life with like music and decor and custom art, and like and we go to the hand prop room and get all these like set decorations and and food that's like inspired by the world, and it's just an amazing.
That's
It's
so
like
cool.
throwing,
That's amazing.
yeah, it's like throwing a birthday party for a surprise birthday party for a writer, because they come and they have no idea we're going to do all this, and then like, who are you people? I'm a stranger. Why would you do this for me?
That's really amazing.
And that takes place in the library or upstairs?
Well, we do them. Yeah, it takes place in the library. We do that like the second Monday night of every month, and then we also do reads at SAG-AFTRA headquarters, at the American Film Institute, and at Culver City Casting Studios in Culver City. And then we're actually working with, I have students that are trying to get us in on the campuses of colleges, so we can do them actually on college campuses, and it can be a great learning experience for the students to come and meet working, performing actors, as well as great CSA casting directors and writers from the Writers Guild. And then we're also actually talking to Soho House, and they were thinking about maybe doing it at their West Hollywood and Malibu location.
Our favorite.
But that would be actually a cool thing to do there, because their spaces are gorgeous.
Yeah, they are very beautiful.
And the people that are members of the Soho House are people you would want to kind of get involved or like pay attention or see what you're up to.
Yes, they are.
Because they're established professionals.
We were just talking earlier about the fact that we hate the Soho House because we are Valley girls and we don't feel comfortable anywhere outside of CVS.
Yeah.
Well, if I ever see you at the Soho House, then you will at least have one person you can feel comfortable
you.
with.
Won't
We
see
ran
us
into
there.
somebody today that we had zero idea who he was or how we knew him. We just knew we knew him.
Yeah, I made eye contact with him, and then I knew immediately, like, he recognized me and I recognized him, but no idea. And thank God he was on the phone. So he was like, oh, I can't talk, but like hugged us, and we can't figure out who
The
he is.
elevator doors closed and we were like, who is that? At the exact same time, and then neither of us knew.
But you both knew that you recognized him from something.
I think we know him well.
I think we worked on something.
Yeah.
That is truly
If you're listening out
one
there,
of
Tell us who you are.
misconnections.
you are.
I think that's one of the things that gives me the most anxiety in LA is you see and meet so many people constantly, which is wonderful. It makes such a big city feel like so nice and warm when you're like, oh, friendly face. But it's so hard to keep track at a certain point that you're just like, I recognize you and I don't remember your name and I don't know what I know you from.
I think that like my goal is to just be honest in those situations and be like, remind me how we know each
Oh,
other.
100%.
And if they get offended, I'll be like, look, I smoke a lot of weed and it's ruined
Or just
my
say
brain.
that your hard drive is full. You can only have so many contacts in your head at one time, and if you learn a new name, one's got to go.
But that might make them feel like they're not important enough to be loaded in the hard drive.
That's
if
my
it's weed,
fear.
it's on
Who is
me.
important enough for everyone
You know
to
what I
know?
mean?
I feel like Selyna and I balance each other out in a lot of aspects, but we're both just terrible at remembering like people's names, how we know people.
Yeah.
It's rough.
That's good though. Honesty is a good policy. I just go with the like, oh my gosh, yes, it's so good to see you, and hope that it comes up. And if not, I'm like, now I'm even more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
But I
that's
feel like
good.
Half the time they also don't know how they know you, so they were probably relieved to have you be like, how do we know
That's
each other?
fair.
Well, so I'm going to rewind a little bit simply
Okay.
because, my time to do research on you guys was, between like 6 and 7 o'clock. And so for me, I'm coming into this a little bit blind, but maybe that's a good thing in a way, because I don't know enough to be so impressed by everything you guys have been doing yet. So I want to hear everything. I want to hear like, where are you born and raised, and how did you, like, why are you a storyteller? Can you both kind of share that?
Yeah, I'm from Bellingham, Washington, which is north of Seattle. And I moved out here the day after my 18th birthday to go to AMDA. I always was super into like school plays, and I sang competitively opera.
Really?
And I was
I
on
didn't
the
know
Palms
that.
squad. Yeah.
She's also a Muay Thai champion.
Oh my
I
God.
quit Palms to do Muay Thai.
That is so
competitively.
impressive.
Yeah,
I
I think I
so
just
wanna hear you sing.
desperately wanted attention. Is where all of it came from.
Well, opera's intense though. That's like some serious commitment.
Yeah, I was in like private voice lessons from the time I was 7.
Because I was like,
I
in
moved
choir
out
and
here, I
stuff.
think, because I wanted to be a singer. But then I realized I actually wasn't that good.
But back in Washington, the standard was different than
She was
LA.
the
That's
best girl
fair.
in Bellingham, Washington.
I don't even think that's true. I think I was
How did you even hear of AMDA? Like, how did you know you wanted to come to Los Angeles when you were so young? Because I didn't even know I wanted to move to LA until I was 26. And I was like, I've kind of accomplished what I can accomplish in Minneapolis. And if I really want to jump into acting in film and television at the highest levels, I've got to be in Los Angeles. But that wasn't even on my radar coming from a small town in Minnesota, where I was just trying to grapple with being relevant moment in Minneapolis and building a life there. And music was my main way of expressing myself during that period. I was a singer-songwriter, had a music booking company. We played, shows all over the place. So that's really where my focus was. You couldn't really do film and television in Minneapolis. There was like one union commercial a year that would come through town or something. You were lucky to get in on it or something. So it wasn't really, not a lot of people were making a living as on-camera performers in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think, well, at least for AMDA, it was like I had taken the SATs or like the pre-SATs or something like that. And in the interest section, I marked all like musical theater, dancing, singing, acting. And so then I just started getting all of these like postcards in the mail. And that's kind of when it dawned on me like, oh, I could do this.
They reach out to you with that stuff.
Yeah.
So your SAT scores, they like share with other companies?
It wasn't, it was like a separate set. I don't think it was the SATs. It was like a junior
They do
year.
like career type of like
it was like
outreach.
what are your interests? And then I think they send that to all the schools and they like target you.
That feels a little fucked up.
I feel like that's so helpful.
It was very helpful for me.
Did you know they were going to be selling it to other schools?
No.
See?
I had no idea.
I think I've just given up on the fact that like anything you fill out, you have no privacy.
Totally.
So I'm like, at least it worked in your benefit. It wasn't like telemarketers. It was like, hey,
No,
come
it had
take
a net
class.
positive effect. Let's just be glad it was sent there, not other places.
It was probably sent to other places too.
I am from Chicago. I'm really from Deerfield.
Woot woot.
Deerfield, DHS. And there's so many people from Lauren and I went to high school, not together because I'm older than her,
But the same high school.
but the same high school. There's so many people in the industry. I also got a pamphlet, and I knew I wasn't going to college.
When did you know that? Because I knew in 8th grade I wasn't going to go to college.
I knew since I was in kindergarten.
Really?
I had a goal of being famous, and not just famous for the sake of being famous. I loved performing so much. I went to summer camp every summer in Sarasota, Florida. It's called The Players. It's like a big kid. It's like kind of like Stage Door, but it's the Southern Florida version of it.
Yes.
Actually, I don't even know if it's Southern. I'm so sorry, America.
The Florida version.
The Florida version. So I went there, and I did that every single summer until I was 12. And I was always in the school musicals, always the lead. So I was always like,
Which musicals did you do?
I did Into the Woods. I was the Little Red, which I guess that's an ensemble, not a lead, but it's a good part.
Yep.
And then my senior year, I did The Pajama Game, and I was Babe, which was severely miscast. I am not an ingenue, and I can't walk in high heels.
What is an ingenue?
It's like it's like a leading lady. It's like
Yeah,
Nicole
but-
Kidman.
The love interest of a musical.
I've been hearing the
normally?
word ingenue for so long and I have no idea what it means.
I just think it means or what it meant. It's obviously changing, thank God. But it meant not a character, like a typical, beautiful, straight part love interest, carrying the story.
Got it.
Yeah.
Usually like somewhat damsel in distress
Somewhat
type
damsel in
character.
distress.
Yeah, it was like the classic.
And I was always the woman with the bread that's like, anyone want bread? And then I would leave.
So what's the equivalent on the male side? Than ingenue?
Like the Prince Charming type, like the guy that
Right, do you
swoops
think
in and
the
is always
hero?
like,
the hero?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I found out about AMDA, and I didn't want to go to school, and I wanted to move to Los Angeles, and I wanted my parents to pay for it. And my dad was like, I'm not just going to let you go to LA without a plan. And then I was like, this school's a year and a half. How about this? And he's like, great. So that was our compromise.
Oh, cool. So you had the support of your family.
Oh yeah.
That's so
I would
amazing.
not have been able to figure this out. It would have taken me triple the time. I don't even know if I ever would have if they didn't pay for my existence for 5 years.
God
out
bless.
Here.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It takes a special kind of person to figure out how to move somewhere without any financial support, without saving up money. I had never worked a day in my life except for like at a tanning booth for 5 seconds. Like, I'm from a very
What
affluent
was the
area.
name of the tanning?
California Tan
Oh my God.
in Deerfield, Illinois.
Prescient.
My sister used to go there until we were
everyone
like,
went-
Brittany, that's really bad for you. Stop. Yeah.
I mean, I looked insane in high school. I'll show you a picture later. I looked like,
I won't believe it.
yeah.
Well, I think what's really exciting about hearing your guys' story, and I want to learn more about what you went through, with the process of developing and selling and running and doing all this stuff with your show, is that, from from my involvement, I'm very heavily involved in our union, SAG-AFTRA. And there's the way that I have been talking about it in like my education, because I'm also the co-chair of the Los Angeles Conservatory, which is servicing our, our 80,000 members in LA, and I'm on the board and all that. So I get to see kind of like the overview of how the entire industry is doing, because we have so many staff reports on like what's the state of the industry and how are the earnings of our different categories, and being involved in the discussions about what we're going to negotiate in our contracts and all that stuff. It's incredibly overwhelming, but we know that we have a lot of issues right now, especially with regards to the middle class of our membership being able to make a living, because you essentially have like names and stars who don't work for scale, and then you have like the 95% that are trying to get the recurring guests and things like that and eke out a living and whatever. And at this point, we've kind of seen an eradication of like the top of show guest, for example, and all these now shows are essentially going to streaming platforms, and the contracts for streaming are not like network TV.
Right.
So, for example, I'm a series regular on a series right now called The Chosen, and it's under one of the like streaming contracts where they were able to pay me $2,500 a week in cross-board episodes. And so for the entire season one, as a series lead, I made less than what would qualify me for health insurance through our union, which is $17,000 is the threshold. Mm-hmm. And so if it had been like a CBS or an ABC or like a premium, network, the minimum is like $35,000 an episode. That's a huge disparity for everything that's essentially going to end up on a streaming platform one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And so, and I'm sure the contracts that you guys had to work under were similar, where it's like, it's kind of, was it like freely negotiated, or like what, can you describe kind of like the challenges? Because I'm sure that even like with regards to how you guys were able to monetize your own show, I'm sure it was like a completely different economic reality than if it had been like a CBS show or a Fox show or something like
this
that.
is an understatement.
So I said a bunch of shit, but can you like kind of comment on some of that?
Yeah, I mean, the first season of Foursome is what qualified us for the WGA. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, if a show is new media, the WGA, the pay minimum is anything over $0. Mm-hmm. So they could basically pay us whatever they wanted. And I think...
And our salary was just a little bit over $0.
To be the first season, which, we wrote the entire season by ourselves, mm-hmm. and EP'd.
Not just wrote an EP'd and was on set every single day, first there, last to leave. Mm. But we also did, because we did not know that there are minimums on how many drafts you get to rewrite. You have a contract that says how many rewrites they get before they have to pay you. Mm-hmm. We did 91 rewrites.
Oh my God.
Of 6 episodes.
How long did that take to do those rewrites? Like how
6
many
months.
Yeah, it was 6 months. And I think we total each ended up making like $8,000.
$6,000.
For the whole first season?
$6,000 after taxes, after commissions.
For the whole first season?
For the whole first season.
As the writers, creators,
right?
executive producers, showrunners.
And I was fully waiting tables on the weekends or after set if I could make it to a shift. And I was making more money waiting tables than I was.
And the impression that people have, because they don't know how these contracts work and how much they are behind what you would make on a series or something, is that, whoa, you guys must be like raking it in. You're working with these, you know what I mean? Like, did you?
But on the opposite end of that, our lawyer, and we have an amazing lawyer who gets us a lot more money than we should be making. Maybe not should be, but then people would want to be paying us. Mm-hmm. He had really good advice. He's like, it's a brave new world, and you guys are given the opportunity to show run with 0 writing room experience, which is very rare. When we talk to most people in the WGA, we're amongst very few women and the youngest showrunners in the union. So we've been kind of like shot forward on this path that we've directed 3 episodes with no directing experience, except for a pilot presentation. We have showrun writing rooms of 7 and more people. I mean, we really skipped, you start as a writing assistant, you get bumped up to staff writer, story editor, all those things. We skipped that entire...
The first writing room I had ever stepped foot in was the writing room that we were show running. So it's like very
while the
rare.
money wasn't there, it did give us something that a CBS show never in a million years would have given us.
Well, and that's why I mean, that's so exciting, because it's kind of the reality now that while things are more difficult for the people that used to be able to sustain themselves with, for example, commercial work or with, half a dozen guest stars on network TV or something like that during the year or whatever, is now the value of creating content, this absolute mad rush for, buying content, buying ideas, getting things into production. And it feels like somebody said something at a meeting earlier today at the union about needing to be artistic entrepreneurs, not just actors who are going out in auditions. And everybody talks about doing the kinds of things that it's clear you guys have been up to and doing. So you're part of the vanguard. And I think you were kind of doing it earlier, I think, than a lot of people, because now it feels like people are having this mad rush to trying to develop content and do all this stuff. But you guys were up at this, 5 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, I have no concept of time in Los Angeles. Neverland out here. I'm like, I'm 22.
Yeah, I would say though, because, we sold the show, it was immediately picked up for series. It was greenlit right away and then immediately got picked up for a second season. It set really unrealistic expectations for working anywhere else.
We just sold, so basically skipping through Foursome a little bit, even though there's a lot that we could talk about just that experience. We sold another show. So basically Brian Robbins, who was the president of Awesomeness TV, who's a huge champion of us and someone we care about very much as a mentor and our first boss, moved over to Nickelodeon and took another huge person in our life, that's this female executive that's always championed us, Shauna Fallon, over with him at Nickelodeon. And the two of them gave us a blind deal. And we were really struggling because we don't do kids TV. Our brand is R-rated comedy nostalgia. But because of nostalgia, we wanted to do a reboot. So I don't know if we're allowed to say what it is. Yeah.
So don't.
We always are I don't know, but here's what it is. And then we always get in trouble. So we're doing a reboot with Nickelodeon of a beloved 90s
kids show.
But when we sold it, so basically we're working with Ace Entertainment, who just did
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
And they're rebooting the show with us as our producers. And we went in, we sold the show in the room, which is very unusual, sold the pilot in the room. And we left being very depressed because we were they only bought one episode.
Yeah. And they were even once you turn in the pilot, we'll decide if we'll pick up the series or not, which normally they shoot the pilot and test it. So the production company was really thrilled with that we were skipping a step, but we left really upset and bummed out because we were what? All we get is the pilot? Where's our automatic pick up to series and a green light? Shouldn't we be filming? Is it 2 months from now?
Our producer called us and was you guys are being brats. He got mad at us. And we were we're sorry, we don't know. He's this is normal. No one just says, here's, however many millions of dollars when we don't know what the story is gonna be.
Well, this is actually really a good point because you don't know what the rules are, so you can break them and people understand, So can you share an example of how you not knowing what the well-trodden path was actually an advantage in you guys executing your vision?
I can give an example in a negative way.
Okay.
We were more concerned when we sold the show. We were young. We were 24 when we sold the first show, Foursome. And we were more concerned with being friends with all the actors because it felt all the shows we had grown up watching, we felt we were a part of this high school magic. And we just wanted to be a part of it.
And we also had written 2 of the lead characters for ourselves. So we already were kind of bummed that we weren't a part of, the main cast. And so in between takes, during lunch, whenever it was, we cared so much about being in with them and becoming their friends and be close with them.
And you want to set the kind of tone for the set that we
really messed up.
Yeah, it was major backtracking in the seasons to come.
And then so second, we were so unprofessional. We were partying with them just like acting like old people hanging out with kids. Even though, they were 20 and we were 24, but it felt like a huge difference.
Yeah, we've never felt so old.
And it helps that they reminded us how old we were every 5 seconds. They're like, ew, you don't know about this?
You're like 40.
You're like,
That's what they would
40.
always say. You're like 40.
Oh my God.
So then second season, when we came back, we were like, if we really want to be taken seriously, if we really want things to change, if we want to direct, we have to like do our jobs and not hide in the closet during production meetings because we don't want to go. So we like stepped it up, and the kids were like, oh, mom and dad are mad at us. They call us mother and papa. So
She's mother and papa.
So we really had to switch the dynamic, and also the dynamic in the eyes of Awesomeness TV, because they thought we were doofuses because we were acting like it. So our advice to somebody who gets this opportunity is to really fake it till you make it. Don't act like you don't know what you're doing. Just be as professional as you can. You can have fun and be, we're still us. We're not wearing ties. We're not having like low women voices that are like, we're smart women with glasses. We're still very much like bubbly, Gen Z. No, we're not Gen Z. We're millennials. Millennially, ditzes, but there's a way to be yourself and be the boss at the same time.
And I also think if you don't know exactly what it is you're supposed to be doing, like just taking it as a learning opportunity, you're surrounded by a whole crew of people. Like, what an amazing opportunity to learn what it takes to, produce something, which we never had done before.
What's a specific example of what you were doing on set that you're like, okay, we can't do that. That's setting the wrong tone for what we got to do?
Hiding in production, like hiding from production meetings, having the cast like sit on our laps while we're like whispering jokes while a take is going on.
Wow, okay.
Just like bare minimum professionalism. Also, like what we should have been doing is like going up to the director and being like, let me see your shot list. And we really had no mentor as a showrunner either to be like, this is what you do as a showrunner. We still to this day have not been showrunners with a budget, example. We very slowly have gained the trust because Awesomeness TV is incredibly secretive with their budgets. A lot of streamers are a little bit secretive with their budgets. I think Netflix is a little bit transparent, but now we've met enough women in the industry where we would feel comfortable, and men, where we would feel comfortable saying, how do you work with your budget? Because the showrunner really makes the decisions of where the money goes. And we've never done that. Which is also interesting because we would sometimes be fighting against ourselves budget-wise, not realizing that we were cutting ourselves off. We got to the point, I think, in fourth season when we were directing that we knew, okay, we're going to cut the budget without knowing what the budget was in all of these episodes, so that our episode, the last one, the finale, would be really big, and we would get to have 200 extras and a crane and a cop chase, all the things we ended up doing. But we had to do that blind. We always say to anyone that we meet that talks to us when we try to pitch a show, a lot of the concerns, especially with streamers when you're pitching, is how much is this going to cost?
And how quickly can you do it?
And we say there is no one that can run a show cheaper or faster than us. We did our writing room in 10 minutes and our production date started the next day. And we were not only finishing 10 episodes and writing them and like checking everyone else's writing as showrunners do, but also casting and checking on sets. We moved our writing room to the studio where we were shooting so that we could do everything at once.
So when you are running your own show, you just mentioned the casting part. What's that like where now suddenly you're in a position to hire other performers and you're so young and, I'm sure you had an impulse to want to hire a bunch of your friends, but that might have been problematic.
We hired every single one of our friends.
They truly did.
We gave every single person that we've ever worked with an opportunity.
Yeah.
And sometimes we were super disappointed. And sometimes, like with Lauren Elyse Buckley, your beautiful host.
Hello.
So
It was
nice.
wonderful.
Yeah. Wouldn't want to work with anyone else.
She came in for a one-line role. Was so fun to work with and so great that we wrote her in all 4 seasons, and she became a huge part of the cast.
That's amazing. Okay, so you said sometimes it didn't work out. I'm sure that must have been really disappointing because you put yourself out there and gave somebody an opportunity. Can you describe some of the things you encountered that disappointed you about some of the people you gave opportunities to? And you don't have to give names, but just like examples.
Name them all.
it just becomes so apparent how people get in their own way. Like they're so scared of failure that they don't want to give it their all, because then it's like, well, I didn't give it my all. So
that's so fucked up. I know that mentality. It's like,
majority of the people out here.
But that's crazy to me. It's like, you just didn't see me at my best. It's not that I'm not good enough. It's just I didn't give it my best.
I
It's
didn't
like,
memorize. I only had it for a day. Whatever the excuse is, it's not like I really wanted it and I tried and I didn't get it. Which is totally relatable.
Yeah.
You would be shocked how many people would come in to interview to be a writer on the show and start with, well, the show wasn't really for me. I'm clearly not your audience. Like point out that they don't like the show first before they start their interview.
Shoot himself in the foot.
Like a weird thing to say.
First step.
Well, I think
the
it's
majority of the people.
It was so many people. And I think it's because then if they didn't get the job, it's like, well, I didn't really want it. But yeah, it's like, well, why are you here?
We would
then?
have people that got auditions for the show that we got them the auditions that said, they never even reached out to say thank you or never even acknowledged that they went in, and we would see their tapes and then I would text them and be like, hey, I saw you went in for my show. And it's like, oh yeah, cool. Like,
oh my God.
No,
Okay, that leads to another question then. How has your perspective changed now, like seeing that transformation of being on one side of the equation and then moving to the other side?
You mean moving to the acting side?
No, yeah, but I mean just also like, as people continue to progress through their careers, seeing like that, I don't know whether it's just a lack of understanding, lack of professionalism, maybe even like, envy or jealousy or disappointment or something like that. There was a showrunner who came into a panel we were doing at the union. She had been the showrunner of a show called Army Wives. And she said something super cool where she was like, I used to think that success was like in a little box, and when somebody reached in and grabbed some for themselves, it left less for everybody else. And she's like, what I've come to understand is there's no limit to what's in that box, and that you can celebrate everybody's success. You don't have to feel like someone else's success is less for you. But my assumption is that and that's also part of the reason why I don't tend to post the bookings that I have on social for people to see. Like, hey guys, I blah blah blah. I'm like, I would rather somebody else see me in something and then organically be like, hey, was that you? And I'm like, yeah, that was me. But my and this might be dumb, but my own concern has been, I don't want a single person who is friends with me on social to feel bad about themselves because they see me doing something positive. And so I've just kind of been like, it's fine. I don't need to toot my own horn.
That's part of the fun.
Yeah. We feel like we've tried really hard to celebrate every victory, as little or big as it is, because we really...
This industry is so hard and makes you feel so small.
And nothing ever feels big enough, It's like, oh, well, we sold this show.
But it's just a streaming
But it's
show.
just a streaming.
Yeah, we've got to get rid of the just word.
But it's not just us. We'll be really proud. We went on a meeting a week ago. We broke a network's record. We ran 4 seasons of a series, a 22-minute, like anybody else. And it was harder because it was for no money. And there was so many other obstacles. It was with, YouTube influencers that added a whole other layer of difficulty. And still we'll go on meetings where someone will say, yeah, we need a real showrunner though with, an overall.
Yeah.
That's insane because you guys dove into the deep end with it and they just were like, okay, here you go. And you wrote, you show ran, you produced, you directed some, but
that's why we celebrate the victories, is because you can't focus on, you can, and we do focus on the little comment that sits with you and grows and makes you start to feel a little bit crazy. But we have to, that's why we have a hashtag called Pitch with a Bitch, where every time we go on a pitch meeting, we'll take a picture and write a little pun, because it pops up and we go back and we look at where it shows us where we've been, and it's fun, and we have to make it fun.
Yeah, we have to.
Otherwise we'll go nuts. I would say the biggest mistake and learning curve that we've had is not producing our own material. Our biggest struggle is wanting to be in the things that we create. And so much of the time they're like, no, you can't.
Yeah, because we had the success first in the writing field. So it's hard for people to see you as more than one thing.
So
Still, like even now with all the multi-hyphenates and everything?
Yeah, still.
And you guys did make a pilot presentation that you acted in and directed as well, right? So can you talk about that and how you put yourself in it and where that is getting you now?
So yeah, we did write, direct, and star in that, but it's still, we had funding from Canvas.
So we went on a pitch meeting. This company called Canvas Media said, we want to work with you. We weren't really interested until they were like, we'll shoot something. We'll give you $25,000 to do whatever you want. We made a mistake on the project we picked. It was like but we had to learn that our voice, all of our voice, acting, directing, writing is too much of one voice.
Like, we need to collaborate.
Oh, interesting.
Because we're so heightened and so crazy that if we don't have someone being like, hey, this is not real life anymore, then you get what we produced. So it was in the second season of the Foursome writing room. During the week that we assigned scripts where everyone went off, we went and shot this thing. It was a 1-day shoot, 11 pages, $25,000, I think a 15-hour day.
And it was like 5 different locations. We had to do it so fast. That was another mistake. I think we really should have narrowed it down to like a solid few pages, because we don't really end up using the full thing anyway. We kind of cut it together into a sizzle.
We had Jillian Bell, Fortune fame star, and Lil Rel Howery, who was just off of Get Out, who we didn't know. The other 2 girls we're friends with, so they were doing us a solid. But Lil Rel came in for $200. And we were like, why are you here? And he's like, I like to act. And we're like, great.
I love that.
He's like a lovely and it was so much police jargon that he had to do. And we had this thing, we edited together. It was okay. We had no playback. So directing yourself without playback is a waste of your time. Get a director. It just won't be good.
But for us, that was the first thing that we ever directed. And we knew that we wanted to direct Foursome. By that point, we had really been like asking the directors a lot of questions, trying to learn what all the jobs on set were and prepare ourselves to be able to direct. And we needed to prove that we were able to shortlist and direct. So that was our way of getting to direct Foursome. So it's totally worth it. But it could have been better.
It could have been better. There's so many. I mean, that was the biggest learning experience. And then we cut the trailer together. The trailer's kind of cute. It's got fun music and titles. So any good editing can make anything not great look okay. So we cut it together. And right as we were going out to go pitch the show, Me Too happened. And our show has some...
Like a pretty major plot line has to do with abuse and fake abuse. And
somebody claiming somebody abused them that actually didn't. And the minute you could see on their faces when they were watching the trailer, everyone was just like, no, thank you, as they should have been. And we were like, we're never going to sell this.
No.
But we got this awesome experience, and it was like a good, you learn.
Yeah.
You live and you learn.
But that did lead you to then being allowed to direct on Foursome.
It led us to being, yes.
That's awesome.
And then we directed 3 episodes on Foursome, and really, the first episode we directed was insane because so many things went wrong, and an actor refused to be directed by us, so he got to be directed by our mentor, Bennett. So we had to come in and direct for the first time, piecing together half of the scene that somebody else basically directed.
Yeah, he wouldn't even be like off camera, so we couldn't shoot over his shoulder. We had to like hire a double and then match the lighting. It was...
Whoa. What? What's this? Somebody refused to be directed by you?
Well,
Influencers, baby. That's part of the challenge.
We
can work with any diva anytime.
Yeah,
It's
definitely
true. You really overcame every single obstacle, I feel like, with that show that could have been thrown at you, and like the types of people.
I mean, we left the 3rd season was so hard in so many ways, but we also behaved like not good. We talked trash about the company, and they found out, and they were like, you can't talk trash about us. We're the company. And we're like, we're sorry.
We left the 3rd season being like, they couldn't pay us $1 million to come back and do another season of this show.
And they felt mutual. It was a mutual feeling. When we left, they said, we'll never work together again. And we go, ditto, babe. And we both left our separate ways. And a week later, we got a phone call from the company being like, you're picked up for our 4th season.
Was the fastest pickup we had ever had.
And we just laughed.
We couldn't stop laughing.
Receiver for and then they hung up on us.
They were like, okay, I guess we'll talk to you later.
Then they called us back and we're like, let's go to dinner. Then we went to dinner, and it's just like us and these 2 women who we love these 2 women very much now, but it was tense. It's like going through war together. And they were like, what's it going to take for you guys to do another season? And we were like, our own show. And they were like, yes. And we were like, a put pilot? And they were like, no.
And then we came back for a 4th season for less than $1 million. So
Less than $1 million, but not too shabby.
Yeah. So you said, what's a put pilot?
A put pilot is something that happens very rarely, although this year I've seen more announcements for put pilots than any other year. A put pilot is basically when a network picks up your show and agrees no matter what to film the pilot. Even if they, no matter what, they'll film it. So that's what you want, because if you can get something on tape, no matter if it goes or not, at least it's like towards your reel, it shows your voice. You get to make something, which I think is the goal, period. But it's very, very hard.
Why do you think that even though you guys had that breakdown with them, that they wanted to come back and do a 4th season?
Well, YouTube didn't know any of the drama. So they thought everything was peachy keen. We delivered on another series,
And we're so glad that we went back for that 4th season. It was the best season of all of them. And we left, feeling so happy and thankful for the experience, as opposed to leaving being like, fuck you.
It was the best.
Yeah, so what was the
good.
progression from season 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of your capability or your experience?
Yeah, I think our confidence 4th season, we were like, we only want to work with the people we want to work with. We're tired of working with divas or people that don't respect us.
We knew our worth.
Yeah.
We went from being like, sorry, can we, excuse me, may we, to being like, we will not come on set until everyone's contract is done. We will not hire, not one person, not one department head, not one PA will be hired unless we interview them. We were so strong in the people that we surrounded ourselves with. We were over 50-50 for women behind the scenes. Our DP was a woman.
Our first AD, half of the directors, 70% of the writing room. It was so many women, and it was just such an empowering set, and it felt so good and comfortable, and everyone was just
rooting for each other.
Everyone had each other's backs. Our crew was like, when we were directing, they were our biggest cheerleaders. They would do anything for us. And it was just such an unusual experience. Sometimes sets can be so cold or nerve-wracking, or everyone's exhausted and grumpy, and everyone was genuine. Obviously we had our moments, but everyone was just working their hardest and happy to be there and happy to be a part of it. And it made the whole experience totally different from the 3rd season.
So much fun.
And so that was because you got to have more control, because you went in that time with like your list of demands and
it's not
like
even
approval of who would get what.
Yeah, I think that like if you go in and be like, this is what I need to succeed, please empower me, as opposed to, I'm sorry for existing, can I have this opinion? Like, you're so afraid when you're young, and especially I think when you're a young female, to fail, that you are apologizing all the time, and you don't think you're ready, and you don't want to step on toes, but you'll just get flattened as a showrunner. We got flattened so many times, and then we would get, we're not women who are pushovers. So when we would get flattened, which we set up the ability for people to flatten us, we would get angry and irritated, and then it would cause drama. So it just coming in and being like, this is my opinion and this is what it has to be, at the same time being flexible and being a collaborator, not being unreasonable. It just led to a completely different experience. And it wasn't until 4th season that we truly felt comfortable enough to be those women.
Yeah. And the 4th season, we also were like, let's give opportunities to people the way that we were given an opportunity to showrun with never staff writing, So like our camera op, Eliane, wanted to DP, and we let her, which is like a huge undertaking for we only have one DP for the entire season, and she killed it. Like, we're so happy that she did it and that it was her. We can't imagine it would be anyone else.
The show is incredibly hard because it's a comedy, but it's very heightened. So like everyone will be talking, and then a bird will appear that someone will jump on and fly away on, and then there's like a ghost behind a hidden door. Like, it's all insane. So it's like the costume changes. We had a 60s episode. We had an NSYNC episode. Like the costume changes.
Gags where it's like the lockers are falling on them all of a sudden. We have to do it so cheap and so fast.
And so dangerous. That it's just, everyone has to be so game and it has to be fun. Like, and what we realized, I mean, the biggest thing that we realized too is that the attitude on the set starts at the top.
Yeah, it trickles down.
It really trickles down. So if we let ourselves for even 1 minute be bitchy or rude or have attitudes or whatever it is, it just poisons the set. So the happier we were and the more we like made it a fun place to work, the happier everybody else was.
Yeah. Well, and one thing you kind of mentioned was how you gave as many people as you could opportunities and people a chance to step up and do things for the first time. But I remember you telling me that was something that you were very disappointed in as you were working, was a lot of people, and especially like women, didn't necessarily give you a helping hand or an encouraging like outlook. And so how going forward, because I know like with me, I've gotten far more auditions and those kinds of things only because you guys were like, hey, here's our friend Lauren, let's give her a shot. So how going forward do you use that to like for your next show?
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Lost track of the question.
You're saying women didn't, we've had a lot of women help us. We haven't had a mentor that has been a woman that's outside of Foursome.
Okay.
I think the people outside, I mean, Foursome was all women and they gave us all of our jobs.
And I would say a huge part of season 4 being so great was that Shauna had come back to the company, the exec that we're working with at Nickelodeon, and she had our backs. Like, she empowered us every step of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, without her, literally, it was the hardest show ever. But I think a lot of the time, like, young executives, and this isn't everyone, we just met this woman, like, the other day off of the WGA Direct platform that was so rad and was, like, really empowering. But it just depends. It's like, I think people in general don't take us seriously, don't consider YouTube Red even a streaming platform just because it failed.
We've had a lot of people tell us that we need to like pull back our personalities and only show, 10%.
We literally had
who said this to you?
Multiple people.
Yeah.
What, like on the network side?
No, like people that we've worked with on our level, people maybe our peers, have said, wear a mask. Like, the reason that you are not getting to the next level.
Oh, that?
Because when you sound like this and you look like this and you wear shirts that are off the shoulder and you twirl your hair and you have a high-pitched voice and you talk fast, people don't think you're smart or people don't think you can handle a show. Because on top of, women being successful is in right now and super cool and everyone's for it, but it's still a certain type of woman. It's not, you know what I mean? There's still stereotypes, and men. If a man came in and had a high-pitched voice and was talking really fast, like, I think that it's a certain type is viewed as acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So we've been told that our aesthetic is distracting.
You feel like that's held you back, that kind of judgment, or you feel like, you got that feedback, but you've been able to carve your own path anyway?
We can't be anyone other than who we are. Like, we can come and wear, like, business suits, but it would be an act. Like, that's just
you would see through it so fast. We're not that good of actors. I mean, also, while, yes, I'm sure that we have not sold things because we've been in matching outfits and they've been like, I don't know what it is. I'm sure that maybe someone's liked an idea and doesn't like us. But we've also sold Foursome because of this, because we were wearing matching outfits.
Yeah. And I think, like, if you don't like us, then you're not going to like working on a show with us. So it's better that we didn't sell it initially as opposed to, like, it being torture the entire time we're working together.
So how are you two feeling now these days? Like, are you feeling like a sense of like peace and excitement about the stories you're going to tell in the future? Or do you feel like there's new challenges now that are kind of like eating away at you? Like, how are you feeling these days?
I mean, there's always challenges eating away at us. Like, currently we're working on this kids show and it is just it doesn't come naturally for us. We're struggling.
What part of it doesn't come naturally?
All of it. First of all, it's a show with 11 characters that are all meeting each other for the first time. So there's no written in backstory. Someone can't be like, oh, remember when your mom was like this and then you set up, this is the type of person who. We have to get all of their story out in the first episode without sounding like, hi, I'm Mark and I like this and this is my personality. So that's really hard.
And then coming from Foursome, where it was so, everything was sexual and it was very raunchy, to then having to find humor. It's like, what does an 8-year-old think is funny? I don't even know.
Yeah.
And also, like, doing a reboot is like, please let us not ruin what's great about this original thing.
Yeah.
It's
I
hard.
mean, we spent like a solid 4 days on how we were going to incorporate the theme song, because it's like everyone who loves this show or remembers the show, that's the thing they remember. But also, if you watch it, it's like a 5-minute long theme song where it's so crazy, and kids, like new kids watching the show, would be like, I'm gonna turn this off, I don't understand what this is.
It's too much, like, you can't do too much nostalgia because the
doesn't
audience
hold up.
is children, and children don't care that something was cool in the 90s.
Right.
So it's like, who are we really including all the nostalgia for? The parents? They don't. I mean, we'll see. Hopefully they care.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
But that's hard. And also, like, while it's so exciting to work with people we love and it's exciting to do a reboot, it's something we've always wanted to do. We really want to be doing our version of Pen 15. And we kind of have a show that's like, hopefully our version of Pen 15 with a company that will be going out and pitching. But like, every time you get a job that's not the job that you really want to be doing, you kind of hold your breath being like, am I going down a road? Remember when I moved out here to be an actor, and now we're showrunners and writers and directors, which is so cool. And if this is all we got to do in life, I really hope that I can be satisfied and happy. But it also is putting me so close to the screen that I'm not on.
Yeah.
It also is a little heartbreaking. So I think the way that we've chosen to fix that, and what I'm very excited for in the future, is that we're shooting shorts that we will be directing, sometimes not directing, that we're going to be in. We're putting our money into making stuff that we can be in front of the camera, because part of the reason nobody believes that we can be in front of the camera is because we're never in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So you gotta have to put some of your money that you make from the job
I've had
you
a
don't want to be
number of
doing.
people recently say, hey, do you know any really, great female directors or female writers or blah, blah, blah. So are you guys actually open to people wanting to meet with you guys to add value to their
Oh,
projects?
yeah,
Totally.
definitely.
Awesome.
If somebody has a budget for their thing and we don't have to deal with like raising the money and stuff, we're there in a heartbeat.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And so you guys also, because we've talked a bit about Foursome and about the next show that you have coming, but you guys pump out a lot of feature films and are constantly, what did you say? I think it was like you write 4 features on average a year. What's that process like, and how do you develop each feature? How do you go about pitching them that's different than your TV shows?
Yeah, we find it easier to write a feature just because it's not like you have to continue the world,
Yeah.
You think of the idea for the movie. It has a beginning, middle, and end, and that's kind of it. And as far as pitching them, we always write the features on spec as
No one
opposed
is
to
going to
pitching.
buy a feature. I mean, I shouldn't say no one. It is super rare to sell a feature, especially as like a new writer, especially as a writer that's never sold a feature without writing a feature.
Yeah.
Like you would be very hard pressed to find a company that's willing to pay you to do that, especially now when features are like not getting made, except for like Marvel movies and all this stuff.
Especially comedies. It's like so hard to get a comedy made.
Even like we'll go on big meetings at like Universal where they're looking to reboot all of these monster movies, like the Frankenstein and the Mummy. They're trying to do the whole, I forget what it's called. It's a universe. But you have to write it on spec. They're not paying anybody to do it, but they're willing to make the movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're going with their, like, they give you the idea and they say, hey, we're looking for this.
They're like, look at our library and pick out any of the monsters you want to do. And if you can find a really cool, fun take.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Like Dracula's girlfriend or like, whatever the new young thing is.
Yeah. But then how do you go about with your, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but like one
can
where
talk
we
about
went
features.
like the bat mitzvah film. So that was a concept you guys came up with, right? Not something that someone said they were looking for specifically.
We haven't written any feature that someone was looking for specifically, sort of, except one time when our manager said that Hocus Pocus 2 was happening. So we came up with like a full
like 15-page treatment.
Invoice with spells.
Dialogue even.
That'd be like our dream job. And no one ever read it because her other client booked the job before us. And we fired her. So when that happened, we had this huge amount of work that we did that we loved. And we were like, we got to figure out a way to make this not Hocus Pocus too, but something like it. So that's the only time that we've taken something that was, it's really hard for us to write other people's versions of stuff.
Yeah.
That's not really our jam. We're interested, like it would be fun to show on someone else's show, maybe like if it was a short project or to even supervise, we're taking meetings on. But I think like writing, we have so many of our own ideas, writing somebody else's thing, it would have to be such like a diamond in the rough for us to be pumped about spending that much time doing somebody else's idea.
Yeah. And like Foursome was a writing assignment, you know, they had given us the general idea, but it was so up our alley that it came so naturally. And it was the sort of thing that we would want to do anyway, just like Hocus Pocus was. So it just kind of depends on the project too.
When you guys talk, you keep using the word we and us and all that, and it's so lovely to hear. It's such a blessing to find somebody that you can trust and work with and jive with and be creative with and hold each other accountable. And can you just describe a little bit about that journey of you guys being so close working on all this together?
Let's get romantic.
We were super close before we even started writing together. We're like abnormally close. People think that we're dating a lot of the time and are confused when they find out we're married to other people. So I do think that when you're a writing team, it's like a marriage. And the fact that we are able to spend, 12 hours a day together is the number one thing that it takes to be a successful writing team. Like
I would say it's more important to be able to spend 12 hours with somebody and not want to murder them dead than it is to write well together. It took a minute to like find our flow. Like we have a very specific way of writing. I have to be on the left.
Yeah, I'm on the right. Or I'm facing the door if we're across from each other.
And I have to type. Marissa has to be able to think out loud. Like we have very specific things that we have to do to like succeed, but we're both hyper organized. I think it's really been a blessing. I can't imagine. And getting to be actors, that's such an isolating experience, which is wonderful in so many ways because it's like you get all the attention and you get all this moment we like having our individual acting careers and having people focus on us as individuals for acting. We really don't go out on the same things too often. But when we get to write together and direct together, I can't imagine doing that alone. It would be so terrifying, and like dealing with the drama that we've dealt with without somebody who I know is an ally and on my side no matter what would be horrifying.
Yeah, totally. And while it is, challenging to write with another person, we do have basically one brain, but we'll disagree every now and then. It is like your draft goes from a first draft to a third draft immediately because you're arguing it out. You're challenging each other each step of the way. And then even just going into meetings, like I couldn't imagine going into a room without Selyna, and we're so lucky that we're also self-aware when we go into a room and someone is drawn to one of us more than the other, that the person who they don't like as much is able to be like, oh, okay, well, I'll let them take over,
How long did that take to develop, like figuring out those little things with each other and finding like, oh, I think out loud, I'm better at the typing?
I feel like we figured it out pretty quick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty quickly. And then also like, when you have a partner, you're splitting a paycheck. Mm-hmm. You don't get paid as separate entities. You're one entity. So there are things that you're like, oh, I wish I was making more money. Why? It does push you back.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, everyone in our writing room is qualifying for healthcare except for us because we're splitting our paycheck.
Oh my God.
But
I didn't realize
things
that.
are changing. Hopefully there's like meetings and all that jazz and whatever. But we think the benefits outweigh the financial hardship. And also we probably wouldn't be, who knows, if we'd be successful on our own. We think like Team S&M is what makes us special.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys have like your own language, it seems
Team
like so much of the time. Is that great?
S&M for Selyna and Marissa, not just for Ranch. Although that is what we write, is trash. So.
What is other than the show that you have coming up, what would be your goal for the next 5 years? Do you want to sell a show that you both star in? Do you want to do a film next?
Yeah.
What would be the dream, next step?
Both of those things, for sure. We definitely want to sell a show that we get to star in, and we would love to sell a feature that goes into production.
I think we would love, the big dream is to have an overall deal at a studio that we get to make X amount of projects a year, and we would at first focus on our own material because we have so much shit that we're obsessed with that so many people won't let us do. But all it takes is one person. Pen 15 really is our North Star, because it just takes one person to get it and to let you make it, to make somebody trust you.
Yeah.
One of the things we found that's been incredible about these table reads I was telling you about earlier is that when we host them at all these incredible places, and we, the writers invite their managers and their friends who are directors and other producers, or things like the writing partners, etc. There's a magic around hearing great performers bring the material to life, that when they invite all these other guests, they're like, oh, this helps me see the potential in the material that was hard for me to see when I was just looking at the page, and so it's something that I highly recommend to you guys. And if you guys ever wanted us to bring one of your scripts to life and something like that, we'd be happy to do it. I was just at an event at the Writers Guild actually on Monday of last week. They had this wonderful panel that was co-hosted by the PGA, and it was on including more people with disabilities in film and TV projects. They had a great panel of Glenn Mazzara from The Walking Dead, and Catherine Beatty from NCS New Orleans, Brandon Saunier, who is the showrunner on LA's Finest, and then a guy named Tim Zajeros, who is a producer on the Peanut Butter Falcon with Shia LaBeouf and all. And it was this wonderful, hour and a half discussion. And one of the women that was putting on the event had actually attended one of our table reads because of another writer that she had come to. And then now we're talking about doing stuff together with PGA and SAG-AFTRA together, as well as WGA and whatever. And she's like, you should invite us to these reads, because then we could find great material from doing that and all. So I'm thinking of you guys as performers. If you have these projects that you're obsessed with, that you're having trouble moving, it's fill a room with amazing producers and people, whatever, and show them what you can do and bring it to life and make it a freaking Planet Hollywood of your vision. And that's what we've been doing. So
we would love to.
That's awesome. We do table reads for every one of our projects on a much smaller scale. We normally will invite any of our writer friends and get notes from them, and it's so beneficial.
But it would be really fun to do it in a more theatrical setting. We tried to do it with the Blacklist because we won a computer science grant, which makes zero sense.
Our essay was literally we feel qualified to win this grant because we are writing this essay on a computer.
It was a full joke, and they were like, here's $5,000.
Yeah, they were like, your essay was funny.
That's amazing.
So we did that. We went to the number one with our high school script that we optioned, and so we emailed them with Bat Mitzvah, which is really our passion feature. We have this script. I got Bat Mitzvah for my 30th birthday last year, and basically it's a party movie. It's Billy Madison, but a little Jewish. And Billy Madison is already pretty Jewish. But we had, that's our dream is to get that made for under $3 million, go to Sundance, we went to Sundance last year and saw the success of Brittany Runs a Marathon, and we were like, dreams do come true. This can really happen. Turns out it's harder than Brittany Runs a Marathon made it look. So we tried to do it with the Blacklist, but because it's so many children, they were like,
it's hard for them to cast it.
Oh, you mean one of their Blacklist live readings that they did at Montalban? Cool. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we started working with the Blacklist on reads about a year ago. And so working with the team over there doing these reads. We work with them, we work with Coverfly, and then the Writers Guild, and then independent companies and stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we'd love to be involved.
Hey, beautiful.
We'll send you 15 scripts, and you can decide.
We've got a team of 8 and about 30 volunteers. Trust me, we crank this shit out. We do a reading every week, and we did 2 on Saturday.
That's really cool.
So cool.
Yeah, it's so much fun because one of the things that that every actor kind of knows, like this doesn't just apply to actors, but we hear this word about networking, and you come here from around the country and you're pursuing your dreams, and you need to somehow connect with other people, but it can be confusing as to how to do it and how to do it in a way that isn't weird. And that, some people go like a route that I didn't go, which is trying to meet people out at bars and parties and go to Hollywood parties and this and that. And I've never felt like that's really the best place to meet people that is like business focused as opposed to like other agenda focused. And then when you're trying to meet people in a professional setting, you get like 2 minutes with somebody at a film festival while there's a line of other people wanting to talk to them, or conventions, or God knows, like you don't really get a lot of time to have a wonderful like connecting moment to build a real relationship with someone. And then you're thinking, do I just like reach out via social media? Do I write them a letter? How do I connect with people? But if you can find a way to add value to them, and something like this where you're spending an afternoon bringing a story to life with other performers and the friends of like the writers and whatever, it's just the most organic, lovely reason we all came out here is to tell a story. And you're spending like 3 or 4 hours with each other, having a discussion about the reading, celebrating the art, like getting to know each other's story and how they ended up in the room. So yeah, it's one of the best like networking, quote unquote, things that I've found that you can do is something like that. And so it's been incredibly valuable. It became an official program of the Los Angeles local of SAG-AFTRA. So now we've got table reads that we're doing through the union. So yeah, it's something that has really changed my own life and my network from doing that stuff.
Well, whether or not we get to participate, we'd love to come and just see one.
It is so fun.
Yeah.
I love that. I appreciate that.
As long as it's not a drama.
Actually, there's a script. So, a buddy of mine, his name is Jack Levy. And I don't know if you guys are sci-fi nerds at all, but there's a show that was on for a while called Battlestar Galactica that they had like rebooted from the 70s. And I watched the entire series and the mini movies like in 2010 or something like that, just shotgunned it for a whole summer. And Jack Levy did all the post-production sound on that entire series and the movies. He's like the post-production, like supervising sound editor for dozens of network shows and things like that. He's a monster. He won his Emmy for Battlestar Galactica. But Jack has really become like an in-demand guy to talk to about scripted podcasts, which is so weird that's like podcasts have been around forever, but they're suddenly sexy again. Everybody wants to like do a scripted podcast.
Just pitched on Broadway Video, which is Lauren Michaels' production company, brought us in to talk about a narrative podcast. And we were like, oh, what?
Right. It is so weird.
Recommended
Gay Future.
Gay Future.
Have you guys listened to it?
Which we think is one of the best examples of an amazing, hilarious, sound heavy. The sound engineer had to be so phenomenal.
And they did the whole thing like in their apartment.
And they sold it as an
right.
animated
That's
series.
like the new thing, because instead of shooting a pilot and spending all this money for something that could not even go to series, why not spend a fraction on a really well done podcast? People love podcasts. Like half the population listens to them like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And then you've built this IP up. So if you do take it to series, there's already like a community that's talking about it, that's excited about it.
We're very into the narrative podcast.
Yeah. And I had a buddy of mine who actually wrote a 1-hour pilot for like a politics-oriented show, a guy named J.S. Mayank, who's a dear buddy of mine. He's actually one of my partners at the Writers Guild for the table read submission process. And so we did a table read at AFI like over 2.5 years ago, something like that. And he took that script to his team, and they're like, oh, nobody wants to do anything with politics. He's like, I disagree. So he turned it into a 6-part podcast, got like Lawrence Fishburne and Patrick J. Adams and Shanola Washington and like Kate Walsh, all these incredible people signed on to want to do this thing. And he made a good return on his investment going out of pocket, like producing the whole thing, and partnered with like one of the biggest podcast distribution things. And now he's got a deal with Sony where he's doing writing for them. And I mean, it's just crazy about how podcasts are suddenly like this really cool like way to discover new IP. And it's like a fraction of the investment, and every big house is doing it. So the reason I started telling this story is that Jack and I have been taking this idea to different like networks and production companies as like a way to incubate talent for series, etc. And they seem to be really responsive. And then, Coverfly is like, we want to be involved providing like really great scripts through our platform. And there's a script that I love so much called Darren the Bold and the Sword of Boldness. That is like this like Robin Hood Men in Tights, only like more R-rated than that. And I haven't even talked to Justin yet. He might say no, but we want to use it for this thing, one of our inaugural episode. But yeah, whatever I invite you to, I'll keep that in mind. But one of these things is like so funny. It's so great.
That's awesome. Wait, but I want to hear too about, so you guys just went in to talk about a podcast.
Kind of, sort of. They brought us in to supervise somebody else's show. They didn't pick us, which felt awesome. But they were like, we're really into these narrative podcasts. I think they have a deal with Amazon, and they gave us a couple example, like Heads Will Roll, Kate McKinnon's narrative podcast that we did not get a chance to listen to, but also then they said Gay Future. So we were like, oh, let's see what it's about, because we're huge avid podcast listeners.
Yeah.
Not narrative, but otherwise. And we both listened to it and we're dead. We thought it was so funny and it was so engaging.
We were so upset when we were finished with it. We were like, we want more.
I think they're coming out. So Gay Future is about what would happen if Mike Pence was like the only straight man and everyone was gay, and like he's the savior for all straight men.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
But it's like,
you guys,
so
oh my God.
You have to listen to it.
Have you guys heard that one? I'm trying to remember what it was called, A Very Something Murder, that was put out by The Onion, I think. I got to find it. We listened to that this summer. Yeah, I'm going to have to find it for you guys.
Someone was telling us about that in a meeting. Yeah, we haven't listened to it yet.
But then we thought we have so many ideas that like are just too crazy for TV. And we're like, that would be so great with some sound effects.
Yes. And so would you write them to be like 30-minute episodes, or would it be a totally different kind of format?
I think it would be a different format. I think 30 minutes. I don't know
what the format. I would have
that's
to
too
look
long.
at a script and do the same thing we did when we first started writing to copy the format correctly. But part of our problem is we're such bad producers when someone doesn't give us money. When someone gives us the money, we're great producers. But when it comes to like, how do we do this by ourselves? We just are like, it's too hard. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. We're already doing 17 jobs that like aren't necessarily the top job we want to be doing. So it feels overwhelming. But I definitely think we want to get into the narrative podcast game.
Yeah.
A Very Fatal Murder. That's what it's called.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
We listened to it. It was very funny and well produced, so I highly recommend that as far as like a comedy thing. If it's put up by The Onion, you know it's going to be fairly good.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Weird lull.
We'll edit that out.
No, leave it. I love like that little moment.
Everyone just looks at each other.
Well, I had a question that I was going to ask you guys, which is, so this is something I've been asking my students recently, which is so many people come here. I don't know what it is about our education system that trains us to be lemmings or trains us to be followers and not leaders. But what I tell people is if you want to be a lead, you got to be a leader, right? And like you said, the number one on the call sheet sets the tone for the entire, set. Well, I'm sure it comes from higher than that, but certainly I've been on network shows where the number one on the call sheet is really not engaged and not very nice, and we miss the opportunity to have everybody uplifted by the graciousness of, the leading actor on that.
Yeah.
But what I've been telling my students is like, okay, well, imagine somebody came to you and said, budget's no, obstacle. Feature series, what is the story that you want to tell? What's the dream role? What's the dream story? Like what past, present, future, whatever. What's the story you would tell if you could? And so instead of trying to get employed on somebody else's stories, why don't you tell your own story?
Yeah.
And develop that and see where we can go with it. And out of the 30 students and their ideas, we've had amazing stuff come up. And one of those will go on to do something, even if it gets made and, something. But so what is that for you guys? What is the dream role? What is the dream story that you would want to be in? Just that you want to experience as a performer, not as a director, writer, but you as an actor.
I mean, our favorite thing that we have written that we want to do is this show called Stepfriend. And the concept is Selyna and I are best friends, and she meets my dad, falls in love with him, and marries him. And now she's my stepmom. And it's a
submersive multicam, so it makes fun of a multicam and all the multicam tropes. So it's so insane, and the characters are so... My character is so motherly and I get, it's hard to explain because it's literally bonkers, and this is probably why it didn't sell. Laugh track gets so high, the laugh tracks get so high pitched that a bird falls out of the sky and dies. It's like Too Many Cooks.
Oh my God. But
with heart and story built in. And so I've always wanted to be an ingenue in a love story, even though I'm such a character actress and everything I get cast for is best friend that steals your identity or drug troll under a bridge. That's usually my wheelhouse, which I'm great with. I'll do that till I die. But both of us would get to play these parts where it's we're best friends, but I'm her mom. And it's you're rooting for them as a mother-daughter duo.
And they have this foundation of being best friends and they genuinely need each other, but she's broken this cardinal rule, you know? So it's like, can they come back from that? And each episode has a typical 90s sitcom trope. So it's like the one where the parent chaperones a date, but it's like the parent is the same age as me.
And so that's our dream. Like, that'd be the dream. I also would like die to play a high school student.
Yeah.
I grew up on nothing but high school movies, 10 Things I Hate About You, and all of John Hughes. We're from where John Hughes is from. So
Home Alone is my favorite movie.
we're talking more like 16 Candles and Breakfast Club and Weird Science,
Ferris
but Home Alone is
Bueller.
great.
I know, I just want to say.
Shout out to Home Alone.
Movie?
It always has been.
It's a solid one.
It's great. But I would like, our football field was the football field where, what's his face?
He punches
the air.
in the end of Breakfast Club.
Judd.
So like getting to play a literal high school student in any kind of comedy high school movie would also be the dream.
I would love to get to be in like a TV musical, like Glee, or a movie musical where it's like combining the two worlds. That would be so fun.
Do you dance as well by any chance?
I mean,
She can hold a move. And then the other dream would be to get to do something so physical, like a Marvel movie.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so here's another question, and I'm going to combine two of mine into one. So you mentioned how awesome it was using the portal of the Writers Guild,
Yeah.
and I'm so in awe of the Writers Guild because, SAG-AFTRA SAG at the time contributed to the problem that we're facing right now that the Writers Guild is fighting. And I'm one of the few member leaders at SAG-AFTRA that believes SAG should be in the fight and should immediately help the Writers Guild win their battle. And I'm confused as to why our leadership hasn't done that. And so it's something I'm pushing from within our leadership. And I feel like a lot of Writers Guild members I've talked to are like, where is SAG-AFTRA in this? Because,
And the DGA.
Right.
We're very much a union that is like, okay, writer. Like, we're the kids in glasses that like, we don't really need you.
Yeah.
But everything starts with the script.
Yeah.
As our sweet David Goodman would say.
Yeah, and I've watched all of his speeches and things like that, and over doing these table reads, I've been meeting dozens and dozens of Writers Guild members. I'm going to their events now and things like that. So what and I just love the fact that this adversity has bonded them together. I learned that they kept the strike captains in place after the 2008 writer's strike and just took strike off of it, but that there's captains that then help and organize the membership, which I think is more manageable with 9,000 members in Writers Guild West or something between 7 and something like that. But there's 80,000 Los Angeles SAG-AFTRA members, so it's a larger logistical challenge to have them all be assigned to a captain or something of that nature. But I just wanted to hear from you guys about how the use of that portal and what it means to be able to find your writers directly, and also what your experience has been being part of that union, and if you are interested in or have been pulled in to positions of leadership. Because I have another recent friend that I made is a guy named Adam Conover, who does like that whole Adam Ruins Everything thing. And he's like, the minute I showed up into like the Writers Guild, they're like, ooh, young person who's on like YouTube, poof, like pulling him into all these things, trying to get. Have you guys been recruited?
Oh, yeah.
Are you involved in leadership or getting involved in leadership?
I mean, we've done like a few panels.
We
and
are a part of a committee that's like met one time that they're still
called
trying to figure out
Wild Wild West
for streaming. And by the time they figure it out, it's going to be streaming's going to be completely different. But we would love to be involved. I mean, the answer is we don't really know. It's hard to say. We can only speak to our experience. Everything is different and changing so quickly that it's hard. It's like we all just have to like share what we make and share what's going on and share contracts and be super transparent with each other. And we will show up and talk to and mentor anyone and everyone. We donate so much of our time to people figuring it out, and in hopes that people will do that for us too, and thus far they have.
And then as far as the portal portion of the question, it was eye-opening to us because this portal, basically the first of every month you can submit to 10 different producers or production companies. And I mean, like Netflix, Amazon, Apple, it's a lot of big ones. And then also some smaller, more independent ones. And Selyna and I are lucky because we get to submit to 20 because we're a team.
Sneaky.
We're sneaky. We probably shouldn't be doing that.
But
just a little before we started using the portal, just to show you the difference it makes, we were at UTA and Artists First, two humongous companies. And a month before the WGA had everybody fire their representation agents, we fired our whole team, not knowing that this was about to happen, because they weren't supportive of us as multi-hyphenates. They said, just right. So we fired everyone. We were like, what are we going to do? And then everyone fired their agents.
And we were like, great, well, now we're in the same boat as everyone. And this portal came out, and we, from that portal, have had more meetings in the last few months than we had the last 2 years with, a huge agency.
That's
and it did. And the portal itself, it's not like they'll meet anyone. We've been one of the few people that have gotten called in. You have to make a good cover letter.
And do some research on the company as well. And
when we reach out, we look specifically what they've done. And we were like, we love this show, whatever. And also it's released our inhibition when it comes to doing a blind call and being like, you don't know us, we don't have reps, meet us. And people are more willing to do it.
Yeah. And even for the people that we do know, I mean, it's like we have our own personal connections to people we've met with over the years, and we keep a very detailed list of who they are, what their position is, when it is that we met them, what they were looking for. But when we had representation, we were too nervous to reach out directly to them. It was this weird middleman. And so we lost, communication with all these people. And when we didn't have a team anymore, we just reached out to our whole contact list, and people were like, oh, we haven't heard from you for years. Of course we'll have you come in. We'd love to hear what you're up to.
I feel like there's such a lesson for our entire creative community about how much we need to be collaborating with each other and not letting middle people separate us from each other.
You are your own boss.
Yeah.
And it's so important to not wait for someone to do it for you, to create your own stuff, to write your own things, to keep so busy, and to be fearless. You can have an agent and pick up a phone and call a company and pitch yourself. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, and that's a big part of what I'm passionate about now is how do we stitch our communities closer together? The Writers Guild, the Producers Guild, the DGA, SAG-AFTRA, even CSA, things like that, where we all want to be meeting with each other, and the only thing that gets in the way is the protecting of the value of our time by not being inundated with people that aren't ready to be meeting us. But that's why things like the TV Academy are ostensibly supposed to be the place where, you've had to have worked recently to be a member of something like that. So that should be a place where there's more cross-pollination. And I just had a great meeting with the CEO and the chairman of the TV Academy, a guy named Frank Sherma. And I was telling Frank, I'm like, dude, I've been a member of the TV Academy for 2 years, and all I did is go to some town hall thing for actor performers where everybody was talking about how to get each other Emmys. But I'm like, I want to be I want to see what are we doing to meet each other in these different peer groups, like the writers peer group and producers peer group and the directors. That's why I want to be part of the television academy. If we're not going to do it just amongst hey, you're in the union, good, but that's still not good enough. Okay, now you're in the academy. That should be good enough where we can meet with each other and have those conversations.
That's what's so wonderful about the WGA is they've got a mixer for everything. We've gone to women mixers, and I mean literally every category of every minute thing that you can think of. They have mixers and drinks, comedy writers, comedy feature writers, comedy TV writers, half-hour comedies, multicams. They'll separate us and put us together and have all these events. They're incredibly inclusive, and they really want you to get involved. And they answer for SAG, I did a commercial when I first moved out here, and it was really it played all the time, and I was like, there was no explanation of knowing how you get paid and where it goes and how you're supposed to audit them. It was so confusing. And then when I got a check for $4,000 for the entire thing, I was like, how do I know if this is right? And there was no one to help me. And you're just like, am I a bad businesswoman because I don't know the answer and I'm not tracking this? And when I called SAG and I did audit the company, it was such a shit show. It was really not helpful. When we call the WGA on a contract, we'll call them and be like, what is profit participation? And they'll literally, if we email them, they'll pick up the phone somehow, have our number, call us, and be like, let's walk through this together.
That's amazing.
Even before a contract, I called them and I was like, I don't understand how I know what my quarterly dues are. And she was like, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to make separate folders on your computer. You're going to label them this way. And you're going to put these months in this folder. She thoroughly explained to me how to do it the most effective way. She spent a full half hour explaining it to me. Yeah, and they answer the phone like right away.
Yeah, we have a lot to learn from our sister unions about running a really nice, tight ship, as well as having a spirit of customer service and taking care of every member.
It's hard. You guys have. I'm part of SAG. It's a huge union. It's very large.
Yeah, you'd be shocked at how few people, though, make the decisions that affects how thousands and thousands of us experience our interaction with the union. So it's a very solvable problem. I don't think the size is the issue. Leadership is the issue. With good leadership, good leadership.
I haven't been to one. I've been a SAG member. I don't know. 8 years, I haven't been to one event.
Yeah.
I haven't even been to the building.
Right. And that's hopefully if we continue to do the work that we're doing, that will change, because we've been transforming things, slowly but surely. And when I say we, I mean a group of very dedicated people that are getting involved. So I think there's reasons to be optimistic, but we're certainly walking into a situation where the joke is, if you want a different answer, hang up and call and talk to somebody else. And, and there's all these excuses and all that, but it's so lovely to hear another union that's operating in a way that makes you guys proud to be members.
Yeah.
Okay, so we like to do a little game at the end. It's rapid fire questions. So we'll just
With two of us, you'll just have to make eye contact for who's going to answer what.
We'll have it be consistent so they can know whose voice is whose. Okay. So we'll have Marissa answer first and then Selyna. Okay. Who's your comedy hero?
Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, I go right after that. Mike Myers.
Okay. What would your superhero name be?
Captain Fat Bottom.
Love it. Pop Can Pussy.
Favorite Disney Channel original movie?
Ooh, Luck of the Irish?
Xenon.
Which one?
Girl of the 21st Century.
Dream vacation destination?
Australia.
African Safari.
Biggest fear?
Wow, sorry, rapid.
Stumper.
Biggest fear. Do you know what my biggest fear is?
Your biggest fear? Childbirth.
Ooh.
No. Oh, a
Exactly.
C-section. A C-section is my big. Yeah, any sort of surgery where like guts are being taken out. Yeah, definitely.
Never succeeding as an actress.
Deep. Now we'll reverse order to get crazy. Now Selyna answer first, Marissa, you'll be second. What is your next Halloween costume going to be?
I would like Marissa and I to be Xenon, and Raven, I don't remember her name, and I would be Raven.
Amazing.
I'd like for us to be Lizzie McGuire and Miranda.
You already were Lizzie McGuire.
I know, but I didn't have a Miranda.
Who's your favorite Friends character?
Chandler.
Rachel.
Biggest childhood celebrity crush?
Mike Myers.
Chad Michael Murray?
Ooh, same. Which Hogwarts house are you in?
Hufflepuff.
Slytherin.
If you could create, other than the one you're doing, any TV reboot, what would it be?
It has to be TV, not movie.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we'll do movie.
TV reboot. Sabrina. No, they already did that.
I know. It's Sabrina.
And I would not do it so devilly. Although I love it, but different. Same but different. A TV show, you say?
TV. Let's think.
I don't know, because we're rebooting something.
That's a really hard one. And everything is being rebooted. Like
Dinosaurs.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Even Stevens with current Shia LaBeouf.
That is genius.
Dark Even Stevens.
Really dark.
Which is basically Honey Boy, I feel like.
We would just remake Honey Boy.
Yeah. And then, okay, movie one, because that...
Movie one, Earth Girls Are Easy.
I never saw that.
Or Teen Witch.
Ooh, yeah, Teen Witch is a good one.
Never even heard of that.
Casper the Friendly Ghost?
Ooh, with Hilary Duff still. Yes. Amazing. Yay! That's it.
Thank you guys so much.
Awesome.
It was a lot of
Thank you for
fun.
coming.
You're so hard to talk to.
You guys are great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.